Dr. Reed is like Nate Dogg. You know it's a hit when he spit.
Is smoke your name or smoking what you do?
It's not the same old anymore. It's something fresh and something new.
People in general, they hate rich kids.
Let's get unfiltered.
Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm Carl Reed.
And I'm Smoke Dixon.
In today's episode, Texas Tech General Manager James Blanchard joins the show. The former NFL evaluator is here to discuss what it takes to be a Red Raider. Takeaway, Smoke, from Florida State's loss to Georgia Tech, breaking down what went right, what went wrong, and areas that Florida State needs to improve on, and our guide to the new 12-team college football playoff format. Everything you need to know ahead of the most anticipated college football season we've had in a long time. Smoke, college football is here. James Blanchard, hired as Texas Tech general manager during the 2022 offseason. He was Coach McGuire's first official hire when he became Texas Tech head coach. Previously worked with Matt Rule in Carolina and at Baylor. Helped Texas Tech lock down the highest-ranked recruiting class in the 24/7 Sports era in 2024. We want to welcome in our guest, Texas Tech General Manager James Blanchard. Now, Coach, you're a legendary guy in the recruiting space, all right? And as the general manager position has started to really come to the forefront here, can you walk us through how you constructed the Texas Tech personnel department?
Yeah, man, we wanted to, construct our personnel department, similar to the NFL department. Myself as general manager, my number two in charge, Brian Nance. He's kind of like the assistant GM here, but his title is the director of player personnel. Went and got our director of scouting, Sean Kenny, from University of Alabama. And then, we got Wesley Harrell, as our assistant director of scouting. That's our structure. We running and operating just like the NFL staff.
Now, James, we had Coach McGuire on this summer, and he gave us some tidbits about how you're doing that and how well it's working for you guys. Now, how did you convince him to give you total control over the roster, evaluating, getting every player into the building, and to remove that away from the coaches?
Really just trust. It started with, our relationship back when we were together at Baylor. We kind of had a similar model at Baylor that's not too known nationally. Matt Rule used to kind of do it with our guy who was the director of player personnel at the time, Evan Cooper. Coach McGuire just took that and kind of put it on steroids. He saw the vision, he saw the dream. And then, he just had trust in it, He knows that I'm not going to abuse the power that he gives me. He knows that I'm not going to abuse his trust. He knows that we're going to be thorough with our research and our evaluations, and we're going to try to get the right young men in the building to be Red Raiders.
Coach, everybody that's from Texas says there's nothing like Texas football. Well, I used to be a high school coach in the state of Missouri, and I talk to high school coaches all over the country. Everybody wants to know, what does it take for a kid outside the state of Texas to be recruited by Texas Tech? Is it possible for a kid from Kentucky or Philadelphia or Georgia to get a roster spot or an offer from Texas Tech?
Yeah, it's possible for everybody. So, it's no secret to, our philosophy by and large, for the most part. We're a numbers program. I'm looking for freak athletes. So, anybody that wants to be recruited by Texas Tech, I would say the number one way, if you're an out-of-state guy, that just as important to us as being a good football player, go run track. I love guys who are hurdlers. I love guys who throw the shot put. I love guys who throw the dish. I love that 100, 200 meters, triple jump, long jump. If you're a freak athlete and you go out and, you place at state in your respective state, it's a good chance if you play football, I'm going to at least watch your tape, because when going up against the Ohio States, the Georgias, the University of Texas, I might not be able to go and get pound for pound the same caliber of football players, but I can go out and find a way better athlete than them possible. So, I'm looking at high and low, man, for the best athletes possible across the country to play football.
Now, being a former general manager myself and just walking into the building, and the last place I was at, the University of Maryland, the personnel department was also constructed a lot like you guys have down there. And one of the things that I had to do, I had to sell the coaches to believe in the process. But the question I have for you is, how necessary is it for the coaches to buy in and be aligned with the personnel department to keep this Texas Tech train moving in a proper way?
It's very necessary. It's necessary buy-in on both ends. It goes back to what I just said about, how I got Coach McGuire to, feel about the process. It comes down to trust, and I understand that's a very difficult thing for a lot of programs, a lot of coaches, because, these coaches, they got wives, they got children, they got dreams and aspirations. And for them to give up, by and large, control over who we're going to offer, who we're going to take commitments from, and who will sign, man, that takes a lot of trust. And, man, this process that Coach McGuire has going on down here hasn't been seen at the college level by and large. So, man, we got to be aligned. We got to understand that, hey, I have your family's best interest at heart. Hey, this young man, that I've watched and evaluated, that I've seen, I promise you, he's the best candidate for this position, for these offers. And, man, if we get him here, he's going to, make sure that your family's secure down the line and ultimately help us win Big 12 championships here. So alignment is key. Trust is key. It's imperative.
Now, the next process we're going to go through is a little fun part that we have in our interview process. And your head coach has been through it too. It's a true or false conversation. You can answer the true, false, and add a little bit of information on your answer. Elaborate a little bit. So I'm going to throw it out in the first one, and I got the first question for you. In the next hiring cycle, general managers will be paid $1 million. True or false?
And the way Courtney Morgan pushing the market, true. Man, it's I just see it coming, man. Man, you got people around here. I think, man, the general manager part in college football, the role in college football. I don't know if it'll ever reach the part, man, in the building and in organizations where it's on par with the head coach. But I do think you start seeing this role start trickling and trickling like a slow drip towards being on par with coordinators. I think, man, it's similar in importance, man, as far as what they do on the field and what the general manager in most programs or some programs do off the field.
Well, I was talking to Courtney the other day, and I told him, me and Smoke said on the show, next time we all go out, he's definitely picking the check up. And
man, Courtney is tight. Man, I ain't paying for nothing around Courtney no more.
I'm not. Hey, me neither. My wallet is staying in my pocket. But he did reset the market. So when you're talking about the spirit of competition, there's a bunch of GMs and programs that are going to make moves. I'm going to say, Smoke, and I'm going to answer the question. It's very true. We're going to see multiple guys get paid $1 million in this next cycle. I've been one of the people that's been saying for a long time that GM position is just as important and reaching really a higher level of importance even than the coordinators. So I think that $1 million is going to be reached in the next hiring cycle for sure.
So you time with me, but it's a blessing.
So true or false? My true or false for you. True or false? When the transfer portal era, NIL, tampering is taking over recruiting.
I'm gonna say false, man. I think you have some programs who do indeed tamper, but man, I don't know if it's taking over as far as being the majority. I would like to think that in college football, people still do it the right way. People still try to operate above board, and that the tampering and the people who dabble in that, by and large, are the minority when it comes to recruiting.
True or false? College football will be moving more and closer to the cap model, NFL model, less than the collective fundraising model in the next wave.
True. Man, I think the collectives are not going to necessarily go away, but they're going to bring the money in-house. And you'll start seeing college football, by and large, man, go to a salary cap model and try to get some uniformity going in college football along with that lines.
True or false? The GM must be a great recruiter, not just an evaluator of talent.
Very true. I think, man, he has to, talent acquisition is the king of it all. it used to be a position to where maybe you put a guy who's just very good at paperwork and very good at evaluating behind the scenes. Now with how things are going, I think it's imperative that, man, the general manager at most programs, man, he assists, if not lead, in the talent acquisition part. Evaluating is easy. My son can evaluate somebody, but if he can't get him on campus or he can't secure his commitment or his signature, then son, what you're doing ain't helping. So I think, man, it's changing drastically. Yes, man, the general manager has to be, man, one of, if not your best recruits.
Before we let you out of here, we got to come to our Shine a Light segment. We always ask guys that come over here on the show, who's next? As you went through this journey, as you've met guys, if you've seen guys work, who is the next up-and-coming guys that you would like to shine a light on that are the next generation?
Man, all right now. I got a few of them that I respect out here. I'm a connoisseur when it comes to looking at elite level talent across the country and seeing who's the next guy. Man, I would regret it so much if I didn't start with my number 2, Brian Nance. Man, I think he's the best number 2 in the country. Probably going to be a GM here in the next 12 to 18 months. I'm losing. Elite recruiter, elite evaluator. Man, you got Cass Simmons over there, man, at the University of Cincinnati. Man, elite recruiter, elite evaluator. You got Alex Brown, who's the number 2 over there at Ole Miss. Man, just extraordinary in everything I've ever noticed him do. You got Coach O, who's, man, like the assistant GM type over there in North Texas. He's been doing it for a while, top of his game. You got Aaron Hunt, who's the man behind the scenes running the show over there at Baylor. God dog it, man. Who else is some guys out there? You got a young guy over there at Wisconsin, man, that they just named the youngest GM in college football, Max. Respect the heck out of him. And then, man, not up and comers and new guys, but man, then you got Brandon Harris running the show at Texas at under 30 years old. He's a monster. And then, we already talked about Courtney, man. We setting the market and pioneering things, man. It's beautiful, man, what's going on in this industry right now.
You got some great names there, Coach. Before you leave out of here, I'm going to give a shout-out to your counterpart on the basketball program, Kellen Buffington, one of the top GMs in the game. Tell him that Reed said, what's up, and to get at him. That's my guy. He's top.
A monster. If you would have said basketball, that would have been the first name I named. A monster.
Thank you, my brother, for coming on the show. We enjoyed you. We'll be in touch with you later for sure.
All right, y'all. I appreciate it.
Smoke, man. What you think about what they doing at Texas Tech with Coach Blanchard?
Well, Reed, you and I have sat down plenty of times, and we talked about just how the new model of college football and acquiring talent and building your roster is going. And we're seeing the model of the general manager take full control of your roster. And it's important. It's important to always replenish and reload your team and understand that you have to be a forward thinker. You have to be moving in a new wave. You can't get splashed by that wave and be riding the wave. You got to be ahead of it. And what they're doing is Texas Tech. They're showing you that evaluation, development, and projection of their team. They're giving themselves a chance to play quality football and win a lot of games. And they're helping them set their pockets out and setting their families up as well, too.
The key to running any great organization is the acquisition of quality talent and personnel. Coach McGuire has given James Blanchard the keys to the car, and he's driving that vehicle very, very well. Smoke, we're going to move along. We got to have a conversation about what I love to do, run the rock.
Call me and Smoke Dixon, I'm spitting fast. Now let's hit some heated topics, yes, it's time for group chat.
Smoke, it's time for our group chat where we discuss what we've been talking about all week and weekend about what's going on in college football. Today, takeaways from Florida State's loss to Georgia Tech.
Well, Reed, it's Tuesday, so we already know what happened, and everybody's going to beat up and call plays and who didn't call the right plays and play that Monday morning quarterback. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back for a second and just explain a lot that happened before it even happened. That roster for Florida State got dismantled, and for good causes. The NFL, you had, look at that, 10 guys taken, 1 in the first, 1, 2, 3 in the second round. Then your running back goes in the third round. Your quarterback goes in the 5th, but super important. So you're losing almost 50% of your team to the NFL, and you were 13-0. So to come back and believe that you can be as good or better, that's called reloading your team. And we've seen teams that's done that. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. But those teams and those programs have done that for decades. Nick Saban did that for 17 years running. Ohio State went through 3 head coaches just to get to that. Kirby came to Georgia and took what Alabama was doing and got them on the wave of just reloading, replenishing their roster. So when you are going deep into the portal like Florida State did to get a lot of their production on offense and defense, and you're not replenishing that with the right talent behind it to get developed and play for the next year, you're going to run into situations like this, where now you're coming out and playing against a Georgia Tech team that you're better on paper, but it didn't go all the way in the scoreboard. And in the position that you're looking at, I'm gonna let you breathe on it, is especially the quarterback position. That's one position that you can't miss on, and you have to have multiple layers of players there to take over, to compete, and to win that job. And if you have to go in the transfer portal, that's hard every single year. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. When you talk about the transfer portal, Keon Coleman, Jared Verse, guys like that don't grow on trees. So I don't think that you can necessarily replace them with equal production when you come out. You have to be able to play a different style of ball. You may not be able to play the way that you are. They got some talented guys, but not the same guys. You can get what's best available, and it doesn't mean they're going to play like Keon Coleman or like Jared Verse did.
But, Carl, this is Florida State, right? This is not a second-tier program. This is a top-tier program for years. You should be able to go back and replenish your roster if you're doing it the proper way. And that's where we just had James on, that's a general manager. And you take that roster construction away from the coaches, because the coach is going to look at what can I do year 1 and year 2. General manager looking at 4 to 5 years, 2 to 3 recruiting classes ahead to make sure that roster is stacked and reloaded for the next coming years, with the understanding that every single year we're going to lose maybe a third of our roster. So that comes into play. Coaches are looking at how many guys do I have in my position. Coordinators looking how many guys do I have on that side of the ball. Head coaches are looking at how many guys are graduating and how many coaches are leaving. With that general manager position and that personnel position, you're now looking at the overall team, the build, the construction. Who's graduating? Who's leaving? Who's potentially a flight risk to get to the portal? So now I have to build my team that way.
So let me ask you this question. Everybody has been critical of DJU at every spot, every stop. They blame him for what happened at Clemson. Everybody's blaming him for the loss. Was he properly evaluated? Should he have been a 5-star prospect?
Well, I'm going to look at it like this, Carl. I'm going to say no, flat out. I don't think he was a 5-star, but he's still a good football player. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, when you look at him, he's a 3-time transfer. This, though, right here, this is going in the half, 39 seconds left, and that guy was running scot-free down the middle. Anytime you just hang it out inside and let it go, that's a miss on an out. Just because there are multiple players in his face, he didn't settle his feet and just let it go and rip it. Guy just dropped the ball. That ball was behind him. Bad placement to a running back. When you're giving a running back a chance to catch the ball, put it out and hit him in his face. They did an awesome job of game planning for him, but he did not do a good job of executing the shot plays. Now, when you look at the 2021 season, 23 season, when he was at Clemson and Oregon State, it's the same guy. There's nothing that really changed. So at the end of the day, a lot of people are beating up DJU for being who DJU is. He didn't evaluate himself. He didn't make himself a 5, a 4, or whatever star. He never anointed himself, to my knowledge. So at some point, the people that evaluated him, the ones that are coaching him, the ones that's put you are the chosen one on your shoulders, yeah, we all need to step back and say he is what he is, and he's a solid quarterback with players around him that's not putting the ball on the ground, and he just has to make 3 to 4 plays. I went back and watched the game. He missed 5 throws, but out of those 5 throws, those are touchdowns.
Well, he reminds me a lot of years ago, guys that are younger than us may not remember this, but when Felipe Lopez was the #1 basketball recruit in the country and went to St. John's, and everybody thinks that he failed. He didn't really fail, though. He was a good player. I think DJU was a good player. He's just not the premier quarterback. He's not one of the guys. We have to get to a point with kids and with players where this guy played Division I football. You graduate. You've been able to be a starter at 3 Power 5 schools. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's not going to be a national champion. Everybody's not going to win the Heisman. Kids like this, though, are still really good college football players. You just have to put the right pieces around them, Smoke.
Now, Reed, we just went all the way on Florida State, but neither one of us said anything about the team that won the game. What did Georgia Tech do right?
They played great defense. And I told you that LaMiles Brooks, the safety from Georgia Tech, was going to be the key to the game for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He worked all over the field. He had 7 tackles. He made plays in space. He blitzed. He stopped the run. He defended the pass over the top. He really disrupted what Florida State was trying to do offensively, and he played a stellar game on the defensive side. Tyler Santucci, defensive coordinator, had a great defensive game plan. 21 points they only allowed, 291 yards, 193 passing yards, 7.1 in pass yards per catch. They only allowed 98 rushing yards at 3.2 yards per carry. That was the difference in the football game. And when you talk about what Georgia Tech did offensively, they did my favorite thing. They ran the rock. They ran right at Florida State. They ran a gap scheme. They were not soft. They ran power O. That's double team to the 3 tech, to the backside backer. That's center blocks back. Guard wraps around and kicks out to Sam, and the back fits either in the A, the B, or the C gap. They ran power O, Smoke, and when a team is running power O at you, you got to really want to play football. Most guys want to pass protect, or they feel good shedding the blocks on zone, but when that double team comes down and that center goes back and that guard does that skip pull and wraps around the Sam, that's real football.
Carl,
That's
I can
coach
see
real
you.
football.
Listen, you know why I backed up? Because you look like you wanted to put your helmet on it and find me in that B gap or that A gap. And really, I don't want none of that right now. And you know when I watched Georgia Tech on defense, old school neck roll. My man neck was bowled up like this. Every single time he made a tackle, the running back's feet stopped moving. You saw him shoot gaps. You saw a defensive line shed, strike, and they played convincing, winning football at the line of scrimmage. And Carl, I'm going to say it again. We all love the way that the game is going and the beauty of it, and space play and receiver play, quarterback play, and we're scoring 50 points. But it still comes down to who controls the line of scrimmage. Because if you control the line of scrimmage, you control the game. And you control the momentum of the game. And that's what Georgia Tech did. And I know that Florida State's rolling up, and they got Boston College. I'm going to tell you, the mentor of Brent Key is Billy O'Brien, Doug Marrone. So the same recipe that you saw last week, you're going to have to eat that meal again. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of if you're going to clean your plate with it or you're going to shove it back down their throat. Because it's going to happen. Physical football is happening again. And I know you, former O-line coach, you were fired up in seeing that.
You just love to see it. And I'm going to tell you something else, Smoke, before we move on. When you see a guy with a neck roll on like that, it's 2 things that you don't do. You don't run through the A-gap at him, and you don't drink beer around him because he may put you through the window.
Man, listen, Reed, now Florida State was 13-0 last year. Mm-hmm. We knew if they were in this new formula of the college football playoff system, they would be a shoo-in.
Yes.
So now, let's get to the next one that's been burning us up.
Guys, to the new 12-team college football format, Smoke.
Listen, Reed, are you ready for this? This is creating as much excitement as you just had when you were telling me that you were going to daggone run the A-gap scheme at me. So now you have the 5 highest ranked team, the 7th next ranked team they're going to be in. The teams will continue to be ranked throughout the playoff conference system, right? So the 4 highest ranked conference teams will be a shoo-in to get the first round bye. 5 through 12 ranked teams will play the higher seeds in home campus games. Now, Reed, at the end of the day, we know that the college football campuses are cleared out at the end of the season, man, them kids ain't going nowhere. Because you know what? Game's going to be on daggone campus. Campus is going to be live during the dead period. Are you ready for that?
Well, I'm ready for it, Smoke. I know that you're really excited and the fans are excited. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm not excited. The same teams are still going to win. We're just giving people a couple extra games, right? The same teams that compete for national championships year in and year out. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Those are the teams, Michigan, Texas. Those are the teams that are going to be right there with a chance to win it all again in the end. I know that people wanted playoffs. We wanted the little guy to get a chance. We want the bracket buster like March Madness. But listen, this is the SEC Big Ten Invitational. That's what the playoffs is going to be. There's not going to be bracket busters in football. Football is not like basketball where some guy comes in and gets hot and scores 30 and beats you. Football is a game where big people beat up little people, Smoke. And the big dogs are still going to control the situation. The SEC and the Big Ten are in an arm race for supremacy. And outside of a couple of teams who want to be competitive, we're going to continue to see the SEC and the Big Ten choke college football.
And Reed, I'm with you in terms of understanding the hierarchy in the top-tier teams. But those second-tier teams now truly have an opportunity to get in. Look at the Penn States. 10-2, they're going to have an opportunity to get in. And when you get in, Reed, I know you just said big dog takes the little dogs out the box, all that. That don't mean nothing because we know that we all got to show up. Ole Miss is going to have an opportunity to get in there. Michigan State. You remember a couple of years ago when Mark D'Antoni had that go on? They had that in there. Utah is going to have a chance to get in there. So the second-tier teams that play outstanding football now have an opportunity to play a home game. Injuries happen. Chaos might happen. And you might have one of those bottom-tier teams or second-tier teams start pushing up to that number 1 or number 4 ranked team.
I just would like to point out you just named 4 teams and 3 of them were in the SEC or the Big Ten.
I just said I agree with you. I'm just giving you that the second-tier SEC teams now have the opportunity too. The 10-2 Bama team or the Georgia team that got the 11-1 Georgia team that got left out, they're in. Who wants to play them?
You agree with me?
1,000%.
We need to cut that, and I need to put that on my social media today. What's the pros and the cons of the new playoff format?
Well, we all understand that college football is 1,000% fandom. And I know you just said, well, blah, blah, blah. It's not boring football. College football is exciting because you want to see your school, your hometown team have an opportunity to play against the top-tier teams. So, yes, I want to see the opportunity, and I want to see a Georgia play a Utah. I want to see Penn State, old school, mix it back up with a Texas or an Alabama. Rivalry games that ADs never structured. Some head coaches didn't want none of that smoke because, again, you were playing a tough conference schedule. And now, other than Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, truly are the only head coaches that truly and want to schedule neutral site games against top-tier competitions.
Smoke, what do you think the college football playoffs will look like in the future?
Well, at the end of the day, Reed, everyone's going to have a chance.
Smoke, you know what time it is. It's flag on the play time. Where we throw a flag on the things that don't sit right with us. Who's your flag on today?
Well, what's not sitting right with me, Reed, and I'm not crushing every AD, but if you're a head coach, agreeing to play in neutral site games, not in the United States, across that pond. We touched on it on Thursday about how difficult it is, to travel when on a road away game and be on the road. You've now heightened that when you have to go across that pond into another country, have a team that's not as seasoned and veteran ran, or an older team just like Florida State, and you have to go over there and now you have to play against a Georgia Tech team that is hungry for an opportunity, like we just said, to touch and to play against a really good team. So now you give that opportunity, and we're on even site, everything's even, anything can happen. So I'm throwing the flag on ADs setting up games across the water, neutral site games that's not dumping in a boatload of money into the university.
Smoke, I'm going to continue that flag, and I'm going to piggyback and kind of ride the same wave with you. As a football coach, you are used to being in a groove for your preparation. And when you make your team go across the water, long road trips are tough anyway. I remember as a high school coach, even playing out-of-state high school games were always a pain to play. When the kids get excited and the fans get excited, you're playing a big game, everybody's traveling, but you're out of your routine, you're out of your time zone, and you typically are always going to catch that game when you don't have the type of team that you had the year before. And that's just dangerous. But what I've learned in sports, most of the athletic directors and administrations don't care what the head football coach wants. There's very few places where that can work. Listen up, guys. Fan Appreciation Day. College football kickoff special. 75% off starts Thursday, August 29th at 12 a.m. Eastern and ends Tuesday, September 3rd at 11:59 Eastern Time. Free VIP on the 29th only for our show every week. Check us out on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Central. I am Carl Reed, and this is Smoke Dixon.
You've been unfiltered.